Welcome to our comprehensive access online training course. Whether you're a beginner or looking to enhance your skills, this course is designed to help you master Microsoft Access. You'll learn how to create and manage databases, build powerful queries, design user-friendly forms, and generate insightful reports. Gain practical skills that you can apply immediately to streamline your data management tasks. Join us today and take your Access DB skills to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what you're seeing so that you can get updates on future classes. Welcome to our comprehensive access online training course. Whether you're a beginner or looking to enhance your skills, this course is designed to help you master Microsoft Access. You'll learn how to create and manage databases, build powerful queries, design user-friendly forms, and generate insightful reports. Gain practical skills that you can apply immediately to streamline your data management tasks. Join us today and take your Access DB skills to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what you're seeing so that you can get updates on future classes. Hello and welcome. We're going to talk about some more things to do in Access. So one thing that we're going to do today is create a form. But before we get to that form, and we're going to create a form with a subform. So before we even get to that, I'm going to do a few things to show you some things that you should do before you start getting into this area of creating forms and reports and so forth. So we need to go into each of our tables, go into the design view, and what I have here is I have first name, but I don't want the headers to appear like that first name. So what I'm going to do is add a caption in here, and in the caption I'm going to put a space. That way all the headers will be first name, and you won't have to go through there and change all of them. Same thing here, caption, change last name, and we could also do this with hire date. Now, I showed you that the hire date is a date format. Now that means whatever the date is that you enter this into the database is what's going to be listed here as the hire date. You could do something in here like, I don't know, say for example, if you have some requirement that you hire the person 10 days after the interview or something, then you could put, I don't know, or if it averages out to 10 days afterwards, you could put date plus 5. Or if you're usually entering this in a week later, then date minus 5 or minus 7. I mean, and these are some other things we'll talk about later. The hire date, of course, it's a date. You could, since it is a date, you could put in here month. If you want to know the day that they actually got hired, if you want to be able to see it, what day of the week they got hired, you could also go 4 M's. 3 M's will be the 3-letter day word, and that's sufficient, or month word, actually month. So sorry, I actually messed up here. So if you want to know the day, you could go DDD or this to have the full name of the month. But if you just want MONTUE, so forth, you could put DDD. And then the month, I could put MMM. Now I could put the full month as well, January, but I'll just leave it like this for now. And then the day again. So if you do it twice, it's going to have the numerical day. If you do it three times, it's going to have the 3-letter code day. And if you do it one time, it's not going to have a 0 in front of it. And then we put the year. You could put 2 or you could put 4. And if you put 4, it'll be like, of course, the century and the year, decade year. And we'll see how that looks afterwards. Job title. You could put a default job title if there's one certain job title that's like an associate or something. So we could put, oh, and I put this in the wrong place. So job title should be up here. So you can't make mistakes in this. We don't need the, I don't think we need that. And the caption. So the default value, I don't know, whatever you call it, but if you have like one that's really very popular compared to the others, you could have that like maybe a technician, and a lot of times it'll automatically put it in quotes. Some things are not going to put it in quotes, but you'll have to kind of watch out for that sometimes. So we could put here required, yes. So that means if somebody's doing this, they have to put a job title. But then again, maybe you don't know what it is, so we could leave that at no. Input mask, you don't really need one there. And format, you don't need a format there because it's text. So transaction. So this is just a date when this happens. So what I want to do, this is when you do the transaction, because the hire date might be different from the transaction date. And a lot of times we have these transaction dates just to know, you're really going to look at it, but it's a good idea to have this because you would like to know when this happened. So we have now as the transaction date. Now means time and date, but as you can see here on the hire date, it just has date. So that's going to be midnight, basically midnight whenever you enter this. And so that should take care of this. Let's look at the order details. These are just the details on each order. Of course, we have a little bit of data here, but not much. You could do that on you could also create one for the order detail ID, but usually you don't use that for much of anything. Now, if we go back to the employees, we can see that, let's take a look at this. So save it. So you can hit Control S. You could also right click this and save it. Or you could just go to the view and it's going to ask you to save it and you could choose then. So for this employee ID, I would not recommend doing this unless you're wanting something random. This was just something that I was showing in the previous class. So as far as this is concerned, if you want to create some sort of random ID for each employee, but of course you see negatives here. And to me, that's a little bit strange, but this will create random numbers if that's what you want. But once you do this, you cannot go back. So let's close this. I think we're done here. So the order detail, order ID, product ID, leave those the same. And these are foreign keys and they have to be numbers. If they're not, it will not match up when you try to link them in your database tools. So when you go here, your relationships. So you can see here, these relationships can only be connected to the same data type. And since it's an auto number, the main one is an auto number. This one has to be a number. Now you can also make it a text, but it will not automatically generate data. And you will have to type in your own data. Now you could create some VBA code to do that, possibly. Like I had one customer, and I explained this in the last video, that one customer that needed a date, like a month, a year, a month, the sequence of that month. So it would be like 2024-01 and then 001 through whatever until the end of the month. And you have to be careful with that too, because like say, for example, that allows you to do 999 transactions in a month, or maybe 1,000 transactions in a month. And once you reach that limit, I'm not sure what would happen at that point. Might have to test that and see. So if you think you're going to have more than 1,000, then you should have 4 digits in there. More than 10,000. And you have to plan for the future too, because you don't want to have to go and change things 10 years down the line. If you go from having 100 customers a month and then suddenly you're having 1,000 customers a month, then you have to make a change. So everything looks good here except for the unit price. We need to add a caption in here and just type in unit price. You could put default value in there, but really there's going to be one. We'll talk about, like I said, we'll talk about validation rules in the future. You could limit certain things. There's different things you could write. Required. This is one of those things, if you have it set up to required and you're entering something, but you don't have the price. I guess you could type in 1 or something in there or some number, but that could create a problem if someone actually sells a product. You put 1 in there and you sell a $100 item for $1. Something that you have to think about for your company, but we could put a requirement for this just to show what happens when we're going through this. And index, no. So that's a warning that's saying that some data might change because you might have a blank value, which I think we actually did have a blank value there, which is here, and it might not have maybe it didn't allow us to do that. So let's put in 200 here, and let's go back and take a look at this. So that's index, no duplicates, and we go down to unit price, which is required. Yes. For some reason it allowed it. Now we have a discount. This is probably, I guess it could be a double. We'll look at the formats later, but it should be a double anyway, because you're going to be below 1 on this. And I think that's good here. And let's just look at the orders. So if you see the orders here, like I click here, I can see the order detail. You could do this with anything that has a sub on it. Now, this order detail, or this order, let's take a look at the design on here. So we have an order date, required date, ship date. So we can just add these captions down here. I keep doing that, putting it in the wrong spot here. The order date, required date, and shipped date. Ship via. Now, ship via this is something I'm going to go back and kind of look how it should be, but this is going to be the carrier that it goes by. So I'm going to probably connect it to a specific number, like an ID number or something. And so it might be that I'm probably going to change that to ship via ID. But for now, I'm just going to leave it blank. And freight, so the cost of shipping, ship name. So maybe that should be ship to name to not have confusion, something that things that you could think about, because somebody might think, oh, that's the ship name, or shipping name, or ship to name, caption, or maybe destination. Okay. And of course I could change the caption, ship to, zip code, ship to name. All right. Now, of course, if you have any questions, feel free to submit it down below, and I'm going to continue on here. Now, some things you have to have the information there. So a lot of these are going to be required. Let's go ahead and close this, save it. So let's look at a couple of these. So let's go ahead and create a report. And what I want to do is create a report with the orders detail and the order and the orders detail. So let's take a look at this. Now, we're going to, first of all, the first one I would like to do is create orders detail. So let's create a report with that, and let's just create a blank form and not use a form wizard, because it will, in my opinion, it will take longer to create something with a form wizard, because you have to go and delete certain forms. Okay, so we're going to use actually we need to go to the properties, and I'm going to select the data where it's going to come from, and the data is going to come from the order details. So now if we look at the existing fields, we have the order detail fields, and I don't necessarily need the ID, at least the order ID, but we can go ahead and add everything in here just to have it. Now this is the order detail, and that is not what I wanted. So what we need to do is go to the design view, and that's what I forgot to do. Now on this design view, I'm going to add these things in here now, and let's take a look here. So we have this area. So let's move these up here. And what I want to do, there's a couple of ways that I can do this. If we go back to the properties here, I could do the format. We could do a format as a single form, a data sheet, split form. But this is going to be a sub form. Remember, so we're creating the sub form first, because we need to have this first so we can load it into the regular form. But what I want to do, because I could do a data sheet view, and so if I do a data sheet view, it's going to look like a table basically, and that is not what I want. So right now, what I want to do is a continuous form, and on this continuous form, I'm going to create a header, and in the header, I'm going to take this information and put it up here. Now, one thing you notice is that like the unit price, it's separated. So I'll put these all in a row here and move this up. Now I'm going to move these under those. Now let's see, order ID should not be that big, and product ID also should not be that big. Let's reduce this a little bit. That's also going to be smaller. And unit price, that could be a little bit bigger. And we can put the quantity here, and discount will probably be smaller. Now I want to move this up, because now what's going to happen is we're going to have a continuous flow of things, and we go to the form view, and now this is what it's going to look like. But we did not have the header here. Let's make the header a little bit darker, and let's see. Let's look at the format. One thing we want to do is we want to remove. I don't want two different colors there. It's unnecessary. But let's see. We want to make sure that this is visible. So try to determine what's happening here. So we have a continuous form. We don't want a single form, data sheet view, split view, form view, yes, allow data sheet view. Let's see what happens here. And let's take a look. So it's still the same thing. So let's see here. And that's why I created the wrong thing. So these are things that can happen from time to time. And so actually I don't want the page header. And these are things to be aware of. Sometimes you'll do things and you kind of rush through it and you miss some key detail. So this is our subform, and I'll show you how this is going to work. So let's save this as order detail, and it's a good idea to label it like form or something like that. Sometimes people might put form. I like to put like FRM, and that used to be like the extension for forms when you're dealing with old databases. I've been using Access since I guess probably since it came out. Not too long after it came out, because as soon as it came out, I started using it. Before that, I was using DBase, Lotus 123. If anybody knows what those two programs for, WordStar. There's WordPerfect and WordStar. I think WordStar, and then you had WordPerfect, and then Word. And those were the main things that were going. But then Windows came out. There, other ideas started popping out. Now, originally, when you were doing data, data entry, any kind of documentation or anything, you had a black screen with white letters. And then when they started going with this, they tried to go through this Windows look, and it was supposed to be like paper. They started using white screen. Well, they realized later that the white screens were not good for you. And a lot of times people have gone back to black screens, but it seems like for documents, they still use white screens still. And anyway, back to this order detail. Now I want to create a form for orders, and I'm going to do basically the same thing. It'll be a little bit different, but create a blank form. And I want to put this form in the design view, and I want to go over here to the properties and select the data, or you can select all. And I'm going to click this drop down and click orders. Now, when I go back to existing fields, it's going to have the fields for the order. Now, for this one, I will kind of maybe pick a couple of these, not all of them, because it's too much for the header. So let's see, ship date, maybe the ship name. And so drag these over here. And this will be a little bit different because we're not going to have a continuous form here. And what I'm going to do here is move a couple of these over and have this. Now you can pick and choose what you want for the top, but I like that. Now I'm just going to take this sub form, and I probably should rename this, and I'm going to call it detail sub form, even though by the name itself, order details, I should know that it's sub form. Now I have this in here, and it did not ask me if I would like to connect anything. Maybe it automatically did it. Yep, it did. It didn't even ask me to do anything, and that's probably because the names are the same and they're linked up. So see, that's one of the reasons why you want to do some of these preliminary things, such as like here, the unit price. I didn't have to change that. And some people wonder, well, why do I need to link these tables together? And the reason why is because it'll save you a lot of time when you're doing certain things. And plus, it really has to be together. So now if I create a new order detail here, something like if I want to add something to this order, and what I really need on this subform is what the product name is, because I definitely need to know what that is. So let's save this as, here, let me X out here and hit yes. And this would be orders FRM. And so let's go to this order detail again, and let's go to the design view, and let's add one more thing from the list here, which actually we do not have a product. Oh, and the reason why is because, so now this is a mistake that could happen, and I just caught myself making a mistake here. So what I actually want to do is create a query with the order with some of these things that are connected to each other. And let's take a look at what's connected. Let me close this, and let's go back to the data sheet view and relationship. So we have the products are connected to the order detail, and the orders are connected. So these are two things connected to the order detail. So in order for us to add a product, we also need to add a something here as well. So let's see how we're going to do this. So let's create a query. Excuse me. And in this query, we're going to add the order details and the product. Now let's do a test here. Let's see. So we have, let's add all of these in here. What we could do is take the asterisk and take this asterisk and drop it down here and take a look. Now we have this information here, and we are able to add something to this list. Now, one thing that we need to be able to do is, like, say for example, if we add a product in here, can we add a product? So quantity 2, and skip the discount. So let's go here to now one of the problems that I'm facing here is I can't add it because it's not connected to the orders detail. So let's do this again. Okay, so there's one step that I should have done before I did any of this. So now let's go back to the orders detail. Now with the orders detail, I need to be able to add a product. Now what I will do is add the product ID here, which I need to be able to add it along with the order ID. This has to be added together because you cannot have an order detail without an order ID. So let's delete that. And what we need to do also, because I made this mistake, is when if you make a mistake like this, because the sequence of the order IDs are going to continue, and if I delete one, it's going to go to the next number. But I can do this compact and repair the database, and now it's going to start back at the correct number. So we go to orders details. We can go here and get a, like for example, we need a product ID. So the product ID, we need to be able to add a product here. Also would like to be able to see this product as well. So here's what we're going to do. Let's play around with this a little bit. Now, first thing I need to do with this is do a lookup, and we're going to go with a combo box and the table query. So there's different ways I can do this, but we already have the product ID, and let's open up the products here. So you have the product ID and the product name. So the two fields that we need. So we're going to go to the products table, and we are going to bound column 1. The column count is going to be 2 because it's going to be the ID and the product name. And column heads, no, we don't really need that. And column width. So the first one, we want to include the first one. So I'm going to make it 0.225. Put a comma here and make the next one 2 and hit enter. It'll automatically fix that for you. How many rows do you want? It depends. I'm just going to leave it 16. Column width is auto. I'm going to make the column width, it's going to be, the list width, I'm going to make it 2.25 so it matches with that. Limit to list. I probably want to do that because I don't want to add anything that's not in the list. So I'm going to limit to the list. That means someone cannot add some extra product in there. And we can stop here for now, and let's go back. So let's go back to this form here, this order detail, and let's look at the design view. Now, one thing that I want to remove is the product ID. I'm going to add this again, and it should change. So let's go to product ID. Now it's a drop down, and you can create a drop down from here, but that's one of the reasons why you want to set this up in the table. So that means like every time I create something with the product ID, it's going to automatically add a drop down in there. So now, and that way I don't add some fictitious number in there that I don't know what it is. So now I can add one of these. So let's add an SSD in here. And in the future, we'll talk about how I can automatically add the price in here too. It takes a little bit of VBA code to do this, but it's not too bad. And discount of 5. So now we have these things, and you look at the order details. So somehow that jumped to, well, see, somehow we missed the number 2 here for some reason, but that's okay. It's probably the last delete that I did. So now we have another item, and let's just make it SSD 3. And maybe I need to add some more data in there, 200 and 3. I guess it's going to be $2.99. Everything's $1.99 or $2.99, and discount 8%. So this is our order detail, and now we're able to add the orders, and that means now let's go here. Now you're never going to open this up alone. This one's always going to be opened under the orders form with the orders form. Now I can go ahead and create. Let's go to the next one here. So we have number 2. So these are the order details. So like for each order, like order number 2, we have 2 items here. So these are products that we're selecting from the warehouse to ship out. And so this is order form. Now in the orders detail, we are missing a couple of things. So let's look on here, I believe. Or maybe it's the orders. So let's look at relationships. So in the relationships, we have the orders. We have the customer, and we have so that's order detail, and we have the employee that processed the order, and the customer who receives the order. So we're going to need to change something in the orders detail to allow this. So I don't want to save changes here, and let's close this. So let's open the order detail. So we don't have the customer and we don't have the employee in here. Yeah, I'm sorry, up here. Or do we? No, we don't. And we probably, we'd probably have to have the ship to name in here. And the freight, I always like to create a form for my subforms, but I'll show you another way to create a form too. Like say, for example, you have 2 or 3 things. You don't really need an extra extra form to do that. Even though every company form that I've ever seen, every company database that I've seen, they will never, you always have like a specific database to add things. Even if it's 2 or 3 things, like, status or something, there's always an extra table that stores that information in case you need to add more to it. You don't have to go through a lot of trouble. And you might need to add some more information to that as well. So let's do the design. Well, first of all, before we do the design view, we need to go back here and let's take a look at this employees table. Or, I'm sorry, when you look at the orders table. Now, the orders table has the, let's look at the employee ID. Where is that? So we have the orders. Hold up. I have made a huge mistake here, I believe. So here's the employee ID. So the mistake I just called, that should actually be orders ID. That's really confusing. How did that happen? So, it does say orders ID. But I think, so, I might have been in the wrong table. So let's close this. And, okay. I may have not been all the way to the left. Okay, so the order ID, the customer ID. So let's do some changing on it. So we need to change the customer ID, and that's also going to become a drop down. Now, since we have a lot of customers, we need to also do a combo box, and basically the same thing that we did before. So we're going to select the table, which since customer ID, we're going to select the customer table and retail customer. And I should change that to retail customer ID. I may do that. Let's see if anything happens, because usually you couldn't change anything or it's going to affect others. But now I think they've really done a good job on access. So let's see what happens if we change it. So we have retail customer. So I want to change this to retail customer ID. See if it affects anything else. Oops. So let's save it. Now, if there's a mistake, we'll definitely see it in the relationships. So we have retail customer, and now we need to go to orders and change that. So luckily we only have one foreign key, which is here. So we need to go in there and change that, even though it's still linked, but we want to still go in here and look at that. So now we're going to the orders, and let's look at the design view, and let's change this to retail customer ID. It really helps when you're trying to, this is a small database here, but as your database grows, it can become confusing trying to relate these different things together. So let's go back and open up the orders again, and let's look at the design view. And what we want to do is change this. Now we're going to do a lookup combo box. We have retail customer in here, and the bound column is 1, column count is 2. So it's going to be the first and second column. So usually you should always have your ID in the first column and your name in the second column, whatever the name is, the customer name. And I think we need actually 2 columns here. Now I probably should change this because I think I have the company after that. So let's see something here. Let's make this 4. So let's make the first column width 0.25, then comma 1, comma 1, comma 1. And let's make the width to Let's make the width to 3. See what happens here. So we go to the data sheet view. Now, if we look at the customer ID, retail customer, click the drop down, we could see some information here. So I see the email.